Evening, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order at 5:30. If you'll all rise for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of
perfect friendship among united cultures.
Mrs. Sandoval, roll call, please.
Dr. Archambault,
Yes.
Ms. Hunt Daly,
Here.
Mr. Harding,
Here.
Mr. Ortiz, Mrs. Lee.
Present. We do indeed have a quorum. Adoption of agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? If so, what? No, sir. Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation for?
I recommend that we adopt the agenda for tonight.
Wonderful. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So.
Thank you, sir. And is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Dr. Archambault and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Archambault,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Harding,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. Adoption of minutes for September 17th, 2024. Are there any amendments to the minutes? If so, what? Superintendent Weiner, is there a recommendation?
I recommend that we approve the minutes from September 17th, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from September 17th, 2024 as presented?
I made the motion to approve the minutes from 2017,
Yep, September 17th.
2004.
And is there a second? Thank you. It has been moved by Mr. Jaramillo and seconded by Dr. Archambault to approve the minutes as presented from September 17th, 2024. Is there any discussion?
This is Mrs. Daly. I printed all the stuff that Lorraine sent me, but the meeting minutes that I received are dated September 3rd. So I didn't receive the September 17th. I'm looking in everything I printed, but it's not there.
I could resend it to you.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, still couldn't find it. Go ahead.
Are you able to send those down?
I think that was the meeting where just the three of us were there, right?
It was the September 17th meeting.
And
that that meeting was Dr. Archambault,
Oh.
Mr. Jaramillo, Mr. Ortiz present.
oh, well, where's the one where it was just us three?
But it is, I see here
I just saw it.
the title,
The header is incorrect.
the header has not been updated, but those minutes are correct. Mrs. Sandoval?
Should be, let me look at them.
Reference to the bottom, it says 17th. Just change the date there.
Yes.
The actual minutes are. the
Yes.
17th.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I see the bottom listing.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
it's the,
So it's just the header that is
And I'll change that.
incorrect.
Okay, I'll
And-
just change it.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Ms. Hunt Daly, appreciate that. So we'll need to,
You really don't have to because it's right here.
but here,
Yeah,
we
you
just
still,
need to note.
you still have to correct the heading, even though it's down.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, that's correct. So technically, the motion,
Must
we
be
need
restated.
to. Yes, that's what I was gonna say. We need to clarify and restate. So are there any amendments to the minutes? Ms. Hunt Daly, if you would do us the pleasure?
Okay, I make the motion to approve the minutes with the change of the meeting date from September 3rd to September 17th.
Thank you, and may I have a second? Thank you. It has been moved by Ms. Hunt Daly and seconded by Dr. Archambault to approve the minutes as amended for September 17th, 2024, changing the header date of the meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Shambo,
yes,
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Yes,
Mr. Hadamio,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. Mr. Weidner, recognitions.
President Lee, board members, community, it's an honor tonight to get to bestow some great recognitions to our school sites. Early in the spring of 2024, Dr. Martin and the educator and student success team kind of threw out a challenge to our schools to improve their data, to grow their students, to get their students excelling academically. And as we went into state testing, we acquired trophies and awards. And tonight's honor, we're going to recognize our highest performing schools. And so I'm very thankful of our school sites for being here tonight. And I'm honored to present awards to 4 different school sites. And so let me talk about our special awards first and kind of how the data worked out. I have here I have 2 awards, 2 certificates for the early college high school. And the reason that we are recognizing the early college high school is their students had the greatest growth in math and ELA in the district. However, because of their student population being a smaller demographic, they didn't have the greatest growth overall. And so tonight we are going to recognize them with 2 certificates for outstanding improvement and achievement in math and ELA. So Principal Close.
I know. I didn't realize I was elected.
I can't go there now.
Get all my pictures.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
And then we had excellent growth in another small school that was the highest growth, but again, smallest population. And so we want to recognize Cebolleta Elementary for their outstanding growth in science achievement. Are you by yourself? Thank you for coming. Great color green.
Can I take a few just so you guys know?
As long as the picture's gonna be.
Then we go to our larger schools that have large comprehensive growth overall. And we are going to present one in math, ELA, and science. So it is my honor to present the biggest gains in math to the math teachers of Granite High School. Sean needs a shirt. Sean needs a shirt. We'll let him hold the. Admin?
That first. Yeah, one first. We're ready. It was all them. It was all
This is
them.
what you guys do.
Ready? Tell me when.
It's also very wonderful and exciting for a middle school to have great growth in ELA. I know they've had some changes and they've hired some wonderful new staff and people, and so it's very exciting to present the ELA trophy to Los Alamitos. I should have worn black. I did yesterday. You did?
See the smile in the back.
He has a good smile too.
Right?
They're supposed to,
DHS, you have to take
to their
your-
campuses and display it for you.
Take a photo
Yes.
tonight. Take a picture.
Oh, what is on the back of the math t-shirts? What is the equation on the back of your
Can't
shirts?
see it.
Oh, they're all different.
Let's see.
Square root of -1, love, heart math.
Mistakes allow thinking to happen and stay positive, avoid negativity.
Those are great.
You know, board members, I've been working with the director team a lot. And we are trying to start a movement that we want people to know that we love math. And
Yes.
math is very important.
Yes.
So we're trying to change the narrative on math instruction.
Math makes the world go round.
And finally.
What?
It's my honor to present the Science Award to a great
Did I send you the Zoom?
outstanding
I did.
science team.
Okay, let me-
There's
let me go
several of you here. And so Grants High School had the greatest improvement in science, so.
between us, please. Here. Here, you can.
In the middle?
You can hold the trophy too.
Aw, heavy.
Trophy.
One, two. Congratulations, everyone. That's amazing. Wonderful.
Put it back on the table. Everyone.
And so tonight, we've started a new tradition, and we wanna recognize our schools for outstanding academic achievement, and we're very proud of you.
All right, moving on, I believe citizens to address the board, Mrs. Sandoval.
There are no citizens to address the board.
Thank you so much. Mr. Widener, presentations.
At this time, it is the first meeting of the month, which is normally where we get to hear from our schools. We just had representatives from this school come forward and win an award. And so it is my honor to call up Mr. Stan Mescal, the principal of Los Alamitos Middle School.
Good evening, thank you, I appreciate that. I'm hoping you're gonna put the presentation up, so I can
Dr.
see
Martin
it.
is.
Because I did not memorize it,
Dr. Martin's on it.
Oh, come on.
I know.
There we go.
Turn around and there's something next to that.
It's a little slideshow. It's not swinging, right? Yeah. Oop.
As usual, we're having technical slowdowns.
Oh,
To get you in the camera.
100%. We must.
Mr. Garcia, I didn't introduce you, so you get to introduce yourself.
okay. You can introduce me. There you go.
Oh, perfect. And also with me is Daniel Garcia, he's the assistant principal at Los Alamitos. I could not do any of this without him, for sure. He's amazing. So what we put on here is our goals for our DASH plan and how they align with the district's strategic plan. So in reading, by the end of the 24-25 school year, all students will increase proficiency, so we want to be proficient, by 10%. So we're forecasting that's 37 students for 7th and 45 for 8th grade. For math, by the end of the 24-25 school year, all students will increase proficiency by 10%. So we're forecasting 18 students for 7th grade and 31 students for 8th grade. And then our science goal by the end of the 24-25 school year, all students will increase proficiency by 10%, forecasting 64 students for 8th grade. That's the only grade that takes that science test. So covering goals 1 and 2 is fostering student excellence and academic achievement and instill excellence in teaching. So we sat down as a leadership team and also with Joe K. Lamson, who's our instructional coach. And we sat down and we took a quadrant of high will, high skill, low will, in those 4 quadrants, and we placed every teacher in a quadrant. And so what that will do for us is streamline our walkthrough process. So we're really going in and focusing on what the students are doing when we walk into a classroom. And then we give that feedback to the teachers, which allows them to see, because they don't always see, they walk around and they're teaching, but they don't always see what the kids are doing. Are they engaged? Are they not engaged? So we write down everything they question, although they're questioning. So we write down a lot when we go in. So the point of that is to align to our strategic plan, giving them real feedback for them, not just going and checking a box, actually giving them real feedback. So these daily observations and feedback coaching sessions provide targeted, constructive feedback and allows for reflection and support. We're investing in our staff to improve excellent instruction for our kids and quality learning environments. So we really want to give back. We want the kids to grow. We are also building relationships with our staff and students. We do have some new staff, and I'm new, so of course I've got to build all those relationships with the staff and students. We are incorporating SEL into our advisory classes, so every week they do SEL in their advisory classes. And then RCA is coming to Lambs, so on October 30th, we are going to do our house choosing ceremony. You all are invited. We're gonna invite parents.
Will you tell everybody what RCA is,
I'm
please?
sorry. Ron Clark Academy is near and dear to my heart. And so we are going to bring that concept into Lambs. So we will place every teacher, every staff member into a house. And so everything we do will be with your house. So could be attendance. We're gonna we reward them points on attendance. We're gonna reward them on academics. We're gonna reward them on sports. I mean, everything, so that they can get points. And it's a competition, a friendly competition, of course. So we're gonna do that on October 30th and place them all. So we'll invite everyone from the community to come. We're renting a big giant slide, and so they'll get to spin the wheel and select their house, or it chooses them, and then slide down the slide. So it'll be really cool, a fun event. So please, you'll get an invitation from me for that. Our goal is to engage our diverse families in student success, because we really want our families in our school. They're a very important, integral part to the success of our campus. So we're doing after-school tutoring for math. That's starting soon. We're also going to do family nights. Each quarter, we'll have a different family night. So math is gonna be our first one. They're the ones that volunteered. So we're gonna do a math night. It'll be fun. A lot of fun to bring the families out. We do activity days for incentives to encourage testing. So really taking the time to test, not just flying through it and checking a box. So we encourage them to do that. Work completion, accelerated reading, and obviously behavior. So we've already had 2 so far. For those activity days, and the kids really love it because it's a chance to get away from academics and celebrate what they've done with that. So that's a lot of fun. Our family, and then attendance incentives. So we're going to start something trying to get our attendance up. The first one we decided on was World Series attendance. So based on the World Series, they'll all be a team, and they're gonna compete, and so there will be a reward at the end for whatever class has the best attendance for that. And then we'll do it again in the spring for March Madness, so those attendance class competitions. And then we really are doing quality. Joe K. Lamson is really doing a great job with our quality PLC meetings. We examine data. We've already looked at our data. We do look at student work and examine that to see what we can change or draw from that. And then also systems training and instructional strategies. So we're carrying on with the Kagan. They all went through Kagan's training last year, and so they're bringing that back, continuing that in the classrooms, and it's working. So it's doing a great job.
So first of all, let me shout out to Mr. Widener. He came to our school the other day. He had a hairnet on, he worked in the kitchen, he served food, he substituted in Navajo class, ran errands for us, so I can't wait to see which one of you guys comes out next. I'll put you guys to work, definitely. Athletics, we have 78 students participating in athletics this fall. Not one student is below 75. So all the kids are passing, all the kids are doing what they're supposed to do. They're being held accountable. 7th grade volleyball received 3rd place at the Eagle Ridge tournament. Our 8th graders received 4th place in the Rio Rancho tournament. Also shout out to UNM volleyball. They gave all of our girls tickets to go to the game last Saturday versus San Diego State, so they got to go see that. So we're kind of building that relationship with them, and hopefully we'll be able to do it in basketball and other sports so the kids can actually go out there and see those things and do some team bonding and things like that.
Very good. Our science fair is in full swing. Our science teachers are really working hard to make it a full school event. It'll be huge this year. And they have some really amazing ideas from what I've seen so far. So I'm super excited about that. I already mentioned the RCA. The band and the choir are gonna be performing at our football games and pep rallies. They're also going to go out to Laguna Acoma and perform for their homecoming. So we're excited about that. And we appreciate Mr. and Mrs. Sanchez for inviting them. It's a huge deal for them because, and we have a new band teacher, so she's doing a phenomenal job with them. And then I mentioned our activity days, and then Mesa Family Night. We have 31 students who signed up for Mesa. They actually went today to a seminar. And so they carried 22 students with them for that. So that was really exciting. So those are some of the great things that are happening at Los Alamitos. So come and visit us.
I did have the pleasure of spending the day with them yesterday, and my Navajo was lacking a little. I was trying very hard, and the kids were teaching me as much as I was learning from them, but it was great things, great conversations. Mr. Mascal mentioned the Kagan strategies, very engaging classes. The kids are working, and you can see where they have grown through the improvements that are being made by your leadership team. And this was a great day.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Board members, were there any questions?
The only thing I would make a comment is the junior high is a critical age, and I see that you guys have some good ideas, and I think you'll kind of get the kids that want to come to class.
Thank you. Yeah, it is definitely critical.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me call you later, but
Okay.
I just wanted you to know because you didn't know anything about it. Call me later.
Okay, I have a question. I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I noticed all the increases for the reading. Now, of course, it's always going to be my question: are those increases around proficiency level, nearing proficiency, beginning proficiency, or below proficiency? I mean, I've said it before. We can always, boast about these increases, but 10%. But my question is always going to be, is it at the proficiency level or below? And so 10%, that's a good jump, unless we're operating at below proficiency levels. Then that's just my question I want to ask is, where are we at when it comes to proficiency? And I apologize for always being the damper in these increases. I'm glad that, that they're increasing, but my goal, even as a teacher, is to, if they're reading at 2nd grade level and they're seniors, I want to see a better jump. I know you can't jump that many grades up to senior reading proficiency, but any increase like that would, greater than that would at least put my students at a better level of proficiency, so that when they go out into the real world, they'll be able to cope and manage. That's
Mr.
all.
Maskell.
Yes, it is It is, everything that I put on that slide is for proficiency. That's where we would like them to be.
Okay, so you're operating at the score, the original score, which was below proficiency, and you increased 10%.
Yeah.
So can I say that you're nearing proficiency with that increase in 10%?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now that that's the kind of data that I prefer to see, because middle school is a really intricate part of whether those kids can operate at a high school level. Something always happens with middle school. I don't know, maybe they go through this change of life, but when they get to high school, we want to make sure that they're able to manage the curriculum and the instruction and just the level of proficiency that they should be at. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Daly. Board members, anything further?
Dr. Martin is going to present data to us now on the BOY data. And we've been anxiously ready for, and he sent the presentation, and I know it's a whole lot of data and a whole lot of slides, and he says he's gonna keep it brief and
Moving.
and so Dr. Martin.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, audience. We have four, I sent Lorraine 4 PDF presentations. I think if you combine them all, they're about 80 or so slides. So I created a PowerPoint that just targeted a few of those slides to stress everything that all those 4 PDF presentations are shown. So the first part of the presentation is first part is the beginning of the year assessment results. We have 3 different assessments that we use for beginning of the year. The state has interim assessments for grades K through 2, which is the iStation ISIP, and grades 3 to 8, which is the IMASA BOY assessment. And as a district, we use the STAR Math and STAR Reading as interim assessment for our grades 9 through 12 for the first time, because we've not had interim assessments for them in prior years. So for the beginning of the year assessment, of course, we don't really have any data to compare it with as of this time until we have the middle of the year assessment data come November and December. But I told Jean, our data and testing coordinator, to include in the presentation the result of the BOY assessment from last year for iStation and IMASA, just so we have something to compare where they're at compared to where they were the same grades or the same group of students were at last year. So if you look at the reading results for K through 2 for iStation, our students this year is in a place where they're more than 6%. The proficiency is more than 6% of last year's beginning of the year for reading. And math, they're almost at the same level, just a little bit below that of last year's result. So I asked Jean to disaggregate by grade level. So as you can see, this is for reading for our grades K through 2. Almost all grade levels are at a better proficiency level this year than the same group the same grade level but different group of kids last year. And then the next slide will be for math. So for kindergarten, they're a little bit below. First grade, they're 8%, above 8% higher than last year's group, and so on. So this is just a snapshot of where our students are at the beginning of the year. So our hope is, as we move forward and teachers teach all the standards throughout the year, is for them to show growth. And at the end of the year, for them to be above whatever the performances are at the end of the year for last school year, for us to gain growth in the end of the year assessment. So and this slide shows you the breakdown by ethnicity. So and the rest of the slides that are in the handouts that I forwarded to Lorraine, they're all broken down to the same demographics. We made it standard, so by ethnicity, by economic disadvantage, early English language learners, and students with disabilities, and they're all in that set of data. And this is for the breakdown by ethnicity for math. As you can see, self-explanatory. So the next few slides will be the interim assessment for grades 3, or the BOY assessment results for grades 3 to 8. IMASA BOY assessment. So for reading, as you can see, for reading, we're the same. The group of students were last year in reading. Language usage, we're a little bit up this year, and in math, we're about 0.73% up from where the grades 3 to 8 kids were last year. And then again, we broke this down by grade level, and the next slide will be the percentages. So this is for grade level in reading for IMASA BOY from grades 3 to 8, and then this is for grade level in language usage from grades 3 to 8 for again for language usage, and the next one is for grade level IMASA BOY in mathematics. So just to get a comparison between last year's results and this year. And then we also broke them down by ethnicity for reading. And then the next slide will be for the language usage. And then finally, the next slide will be for IMASA BOY broken down by ethnicity and for mathematics. And then for grades 9 through 12, if you noticed in the handout that you got, we don't really have a result from last year, and so you only saw a single graph for each one of for those for reading and math, because we can't make any comparison from last year's data. So for grades 9 through 12, our reading result for BOY is 27.38. For math, it's 27.46. They're almost at the same level. So again, this represents how many of our kids, how many of our students are scoring proficient and advanced at this time. So how many of this is the percentage of our students from grades 9 through 12 that are proficient and advanced at this time. So our hope is that increases as teachers go over or teach all the standards that they're supposed to cover throughout the year. And then this breaks it down by grade level. As you can see at this time, our 10th grade level kids are showing the most proficient and advanced students in their class. And then that's for reading, and this one is for math. 10th grade students are also showing the greatest percentage of proficient and advanced at this time. And as you know, it's the 11th graders that actually take the state assessment. So it's and that's the SAT and NMASR, New Mexico science test. And then this is broken down by this is the result for reading, broken down by ethnicity. And then the next one is the BOI math proficiency, broken down by ethnicity in math. Now, the next few slides is official results coming from the state. So last week, Thursday, we received notification from NMPED that the official results from last year were already out. As you all know, NM Vistas already have the results from 22-23, and soon 23-24 will be in NM Vistas as well. So there's a portal in the state that Jean and I can go to, which is SOAP. It's the state official assessment portal for the state, and that's where we got this data from. And this is what it shows. So this compares our 22-23 data with our 23-24 data. So for reading, for ELA district-wide, we went up by 6% from the previous year. We gained 6% in ELA. In math, we gained 1%. And in science, we gained 2% as a district. So I'm happy to say that we're on the positive trend in all three. And then in the handout that I gave you, or I gave Lorraine to include in your packets, those were broken down by school site, by at-risk students and all that. But I just pulled by ethnicity here. For ELA, across the board, we had an increase for our ethnicities. And then this is for math. We had a little bit of a dip for our Native American students. And then for science, again, a little bit of a dip for Native American students. But overall, again, the district is on a positive trend.
Mrs. Lee, can I ask a question? I'm looking at these charts, and so if you look at one and it says 21%, that means 21% of our students are at what level of proficiency? Okay.
Proficient and advanced.
Okay, so 21% are, what are you deeming proficient? And so what is it, 79 of our students are not proficient. Is that how we read it?
Which slide are we?
In general.
Just in
Oh.
general, you look
In
at
general, yeah, so if it shows 30% proficient, then 70% will be somewhere in the beginning level and nearing proficient level.
is there any way to identify, you're saying that at least 14% of American Indians in 23-24, now you went back. I'm looking at the ELA because that's close to my heart because I'm a language arts teacher. And so quit changing the slide.
Oh,
22, 23, 23, 24. In 22, 23, 19% were proficient, or 20% proficient, I guess, on the side levels. And then last year they were 26, so we saw a small gain, but that still leaves us at 71%, or let's see, 104, 9, about 74% in 23, 24 that are not on this graph, which means they're not proficient.
yes,
Okay. And so you see a good gain. It says all others, and I'm thinking that's probably, I don't know what that is. I don't know what population that is. Maybe the Filipinos and what's the other one? African American. Those all others are higher than the Caucasian, Hispanic, and American Indian. And it looks good. It looks good when you see the increase, but I don't want to rain on your parade, Dr. Martin. I appreciate all the work that you do to put this data together.
and sorry, ma'am, but at this time I don't have the states yet because I states result, the statewide, how we compare with the state, and I plan to when the state makes its data available to the public to compare how we did compared to the state, because that's how we'll know how we fared compared to to the rest of.
So this data, just for clarification, this data is just looking at what we could from the same point last year to the same point this year, grade level wise across the board, correct?
Yes, this is comparing our results from 22-23 and 22-24. Once we get the state's data, we can report back on how we fared compared to the state. So we can, we can definitely see.
There's a baseline.
Yes, how we can definitely see how, if we are getting to where the state level is, or we actually exceeded the state, or is still, or we're still in a position where we're really way below where the state is, so.
And do we have an anticipated timeline for when they get that data published?
Sometime this, late October or early November, we should be able to see that already. We anticipate these results to be in NM Vistas by early November.
Madam
Kind
President,
of embargoed by the state.
Should they have ours?
Yes, ma'am?
do we disseminate this information to the different tribes? I'm pretty sure Acoma and Laguna would be very interested in the data, although maybe, I don't know if they would understand it when you look at 0, 10, 20%. If they're like me, they're gonna say, well, shoot, our American Indian only increased from 22, 23 to 24 by 6%. But now we're at 26% that are 30% proficiency. What does that mean? And then they're gonna say, well, then there's 74% of our American Indian population that aren't on this graph. They're at 0% proficient. And I look at it and that's the way I would read it. However, I don't know if they would read it the same way, but
Dr. Martin can answer that question for you, Ms. Daly.
Okay.
Ms. Daly, we're in the process of preparing for tribal consultations, and in every tribal consultation we do, we bring this data with us, and we make it a point we explain it to them and ask them and let them ask questions that they have for them to better understand what we are presenting. In every tribal consultation that we do, this is part of it because we want our stakeholders, all our stakeholders, our partners to know where their students are at and what our plans are to make this data even better in the future.
And so you do all three tribes, Navajo, Laguna, Acoma. I don't know if there's any other
Yeah.
tribes there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Anything else, board members?
Well, Madam President, we must ensure we know which population is being assessed here. This is grades 3 through 8. The I-stations is K through 2. And then the STAR appears to be the district's own assessment of reading and math. And I think that those, which grades are tested?
9 to 12.
It's 9 through 12?
Yes.
You know, that's important, because it's not half, not that the state requires, other than the SAP.
For high
High
school?
school data, so we wanna be able to track that. So this is the first year we've used that assessment. So we'll just put that aside. And then we're going to assess in the end of the year, Dr. Martin,
The middle of the year, sir.
middle of the year, and then at the end of the year?
Yes,
on the- So we would look forward to next spring, or May, or June, the results of STAR for the high school. That's important, because we've always been missing that.
And then the end of the year for when we start the
Then
beginning
we'll
of the year.
see it
Yeah.
for the end of the year.
Yeah.
So that's been the huge gap that we've experienced, all school districts, this absence of grade by grade assessments for reading and math. Now, we know there are other subject areas that are there. That's one of the things I want to point out. So we have to recognize, we want to look at grades 3 through 8 on this test. And we start making common sense thinking about it, and say, okay, well, 8th grade's gonna be important, because we wanna know how they're doing when they get in high school. Because that's gonna tell the high school teachers what's coming up. So let's see that, then K through, the I-station test is the beginning picture of how our kids are doing in the very young grades. And the ability of young children to succeed academically is important when it comes to vocabulary, language, and basic math.
That's what he's doing.
We wanna
Everything you're
see that
telling
they
us is
can
what he's
get that
doing.
foundation. Then they switch to the IMASI, which starts in grade 3.
Mhm.
And so we expect that the students who have been in grade 2, K through 2 will be able to succeed in the beginning of 3rd grade. So 3rd grade is critical also, because we will then see whether or not the students who were in our K through 2 program have developed those skills that they need to succeed. Remember, when you get to 3rd grade, there's more independent reading, more independent work, more complex texts that you're gonna have to read as kids. So that always is the challenge, because once they get past that, what they used to say is you're learning to read K through 2, then you read to learn once you get older.
Comprehend.
But our kids are still not getting there because our test scores show that our 3rd grade students are not there. So we have to ask ourselves, what are the challenges we need to address in the K2 programs that will enable the kids who are in 3rd grade to increase their proficiency. We haven't succeeded in that, and that's important. So just some initial thoughts without really making many judgments on it. I just wanted to point those things out. Yossi Martinez says that we need to address the at-risk populations of Native Americans, English learners, students with disabilities, and economically disadvantaged. So one of the things that the tribes are going to be interested in will be the at-risk populations that are within their group of students, as well as the English learners. We do not have a large population of English learners simply because a lot of them don't qualify to be identified as English learners. But we see the pattern. This is a common pattern. It's been a pattern that has existed for a great long time. And so how can we break this pattern and shift those? I'm just looking at the first graph of the ethnicities. And that's not satisfactory as we know. So we gotta figure out a game plan, like all school districts. That's what guys in Martinez said. We're all in this together. What are we gonna do? And so we're hoping that the state legislature will be generous next year so that we'll get some more funds or programs to help us improve these things. But I would strongly encourage us to have
I think our meeting that we had with Preston and his team indicated that it's a big wish for the state to give us funding specifically for that.
That bullet here.
Yeah.
Funding bullet.
Yep,
As much as they should. But what I would hope to obtain from the administration is a very careful analysis that explains what you see, Mr. Dwyer, and just what do you see and how can you explain the results in terms of what we need to do, what are our strategies going to be. We heard Lambs describe their goals of that. And they talked about having certain kinds of numerical goals, or percentage goals. Now, each one of them have a dash plan. And so each one of those dash plans, my assumption is that they haven't had the opportunity to look at this data because it's basically fresh off
the
So I'm not
press.
sure whether or not each of the dash plans have been able to really, each of the schools have been able to look at the recent data and then begin to absorb that into how they look at their schools and create their goals and their approaches. It's out of sync. The state promised they'd have the data in math in May, years ago. Then they said, okay, with June. Then they just dropped that entirely and tried to shoot for July. And it's, as you heard, it comes in so late, it's difficult for the schools, say like in July or in August, let's plan with the new data. And that's one of the deficiencies of the public education department, not being able to get the data analysis turned around and reports given to us. Here it is, October 1. Thank you.
It is.
Thank you.
Dr. Martin has been working really hard to try to get a solid trajectory of the assessments. Ultimately, with the STAR assessment aligning with the SAT, as we're sending the kids off to college. That's kind of, we're trying to build off of each assessment and it's wonderful that we have BOY data, so that way we kind of know where we're headed. And then, of course, we use the end of year data to.
And it would be nice
To
to have
drive.
national data, where we
Yeah.
are nationally.
If I may add, Madam President.
Of course.
This is so as you all know, last summer, all the teachers came together to tweak their DLPs to make sure that all standards are being taught. This is the first year that they'll be using those DLPs that they came together to
Cohesive.
to solidify and make sure that all standards are being targeted. So and we have a tool to actually help us monitor student proficiency as well. We trained our teachers to how to gather their data and tell which standards their students are struggling with, so they can do targeted interventions and all that. So hopefully when they match those two together, we're hoping that we'll get better gains than what we did this last end of year assessments.
Excellent.
We are trying our best to align our
I just have.
to align all our resources and instruction and intervention to attain what we are.
Thank you. Mr. Jaramillo?
I just have a comment, and like I said, what guys say makes sense. I just wanna make a comment, I've been watching the fifth graders, I've just been watching all this data. It looks like the fifth graders are finally making a turn, except in math, I think. And I think when I saw some of this data at the beginning of the year, it looked like the fifth graders were struggling, and I look at them as the ones that were during the COVID, that were having to learn out of the classroom. So it looks like they're making a turn, but it's not here nor there that, 1% is good. Whether we're at the bottom of the line, we're always moving forward and it's good, no matter if it's, I know there should be a baseline, but as long as we're moving forward and not going in the negative, I think it's good.
Thank you, Mr.
It
Jaramillo.
needs to be higher, but like I said, we're moving forward.
I was talking with the director team yesterday. I've been trying to be at the middle schools, and we have two middle schools. Our seventh graders struggle a little bit with their multiplication, and they struggle with their fractions, and those are important fundamentals that you kind of get in third and fourth grade. And so, it's COVID has but it's good, Dr. Martin, to see our data on the up. And to see, even if it's a 6% increase, it's good to see us making those improvements.
Yeah.
Just math.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Board members, anything further? Mr. Widener?
So for our next presentation, our final presentation, regularly, we report quarter reports to the New Mexico PED. And they're reports on our budget, and so you as board members are continuously looking at the budget and how it's working. And so in our finance meeting on Friday, we were going over the quarter four budget, the final year submission to the state. And I asked Mr. Maldonado if he would come and present the quarter four budget, letting you know kind of what's in what account and what those accounts are used for, and how the spending goes with the budget.
Thank you, Madam President, board members, directors. I just want to share with you, the very first thing I'm going to share is the actual list of different funds that we have and how we group them. I'm passing around right now a report that's close to an income statement as we can get for schools. And so you'll see that we group them into operational funds, state and federal funds, which are those 24,000 and 29,000 funds, 23,000 activity and account funds for the schools hold, 41,000 debt service funds, and the capital funds of 31,200 to 31,900, the bond building fund and the wind farm fund. So you'll see in the breakdown that I'm going to show you in just a moment where we grouped all of these. So what we did was we started to show how much income is coming in, what our beginning balance was at the beginning of the year, then what expenditures we had and where we're sitting today. So if you look at this slide up here, it's part of the big thing that I just gave you, but we're sharing August. You'll see in the bottom of this slide, August, which is the middle of the paper that you have. In our operational accounts, that's all the money that we get from the state and other places like that to operate, pay mostly salaries, benefits, things like that. We started with August 1st beginning balance of $21 million. We had $8.4 million in revenue, and we spent 4.6, and that left us a fund balance in that particular account of $24,977,000. Now that's the account that we use to run the district on a daily basis, right? The impact aid, which is the money we get from payment in lieu of taxes. We started in August with 4.9 million. We received in August $6,681. We spent 68,000 of that, so we're at 4.8. A lot of that Impact 8 money goes also for salaries and benefits to augment what the state SEG and the state equalization guarantee does not cover. For example, the 10% increase in premiums for medical care, the change in the contributions, taxes, things like that. Then the 24,000 accounts, you see the third line there, we started with a negative of 4,504,000. I'll explain that when I get to the cash report. We received 5.5 million, we spent 789, so we ended the month with a fund balance of 269,000. I won't go the rest of this, but just to show you that the activity funds are not our funds, they belong to the students, or they belong to the clubs that raise that money. So even though you see in that account 874,000, that's not our money to spend, it's money that the students can spend. Debt service account, also not our money to spend on a regular basis. We collect money from property taxes, we save it, and then twice a year, we make about a $4 million payment to pay for the bonds that are outstanding. Then the bond building fund is the money that's used to pay for the schools, the all that kind of stuff. It's being used now to pay for Mesa View, finalizing the payments on Blue Water Elementary, things like that. Then the wind farm money is that money that we get for the wind farm turbines up in Cebolleta. We started with $1 million in that account. We didn't bring anything in that because they come in and typically that money comes in April or May. And then we spent 34,000, so we started with 996. Now, let's go back up to the top of that worksheet for September. And you can see, I won't go through everything, but you can see that our actual cash that we're holding right now in the bank, $63,061. Again, not all of that is our money. So you look at this and say, that's a whole lot of money, but it's all dedicated to different places that we can only spend for those particular places. And so our real cash that we can look at in operations is $27,300,000, and the 4.6 million for Impact 8, that's the real cash that we have to operate with. And if you look in on that paper in July with our operational account, well, you'll see on the not on this one, but you'll see it on the cash report. We actually, by the end of June, went down to $7.9 million in operations money. That's very, very low. And the reason we did that was because when we complete the cash report at the end of the quarter, which would be April, May, and June, to June 30th is the end of the fiscal year for us. And that quarter, if there's any outstanding money that has not been collected on these state accounts, we have to loan the money out of our operating account so that there's zero. The state doesn't allow you to keep a deficit. So that's why you'll see in the cash report, we have over $8 million in loans out there until we can recover that. So that's why we have to have a solid operating cash so that we can continue to fund back and forth. So this is just showing you on a monthly basis, the revenue and expenditures and the beginning balances. Before I move on, are there any questions about this?
Yes, Mr. Maldonado, every time our people at the New Mexico Department of Ed, they look at our cash balance, and they the last time, if you remember, they said it was too large. Why aren't we spending it, or why aren't we allocating? Do we encumber any kind of accounts that are taken out of these different categories so that $56 million, you know, somebody would look at that and say, oh my God, why are they have that much money to play with, or why don't they use it? It's always the, and this, it's always the finance committee that asks these questions, why a large cash balance?
That's a great question. I would caution everyone who looks at this to remember that really those top two lines are the operating cash. So when PED looks at how much cash we have to operate, those are the ones that they look at. All these other funds are dedicated to other things, and yes, we do encumber them. For example, when we built, as we began to build Mesa View, we encumbered millions of dollars for that, but this is a cash report, so it's not like a regular business where you're showing outstanding liabilities. The state doesn't operate that way. The state looks at what the actual cash is. So while we have $10 million in the bond building fund, that's all allocated. We can't even touch it. And the state can't touch it because it's dedicated for specific projects. So when you look at this, you have to remember that we're not on an accrual basis where we hold liabilities, we're on a cash basis. So there will be times when this will go up and there's times when this will go down.
Okay,
Did I
one
answer
more,
your question?
yeah, thank you. And one more question. What kind of things do we pay out of the wind farm? I noticed, let's see, September. There
We
were,
buy our trucks through there, we pay for some professional development sometimes through there. It's really an open-ended account because it's a payment in lieu of taxes account that the state can't touch this money. We use it for other operating things that Mr. Wagner needs to work on, spend it on. So it's really open. We try to keep at least $1 million in that account because we get we through 2040, I believe, we're gonna get just over, I'm gonna lie, I can't remember exactly, it's a couple $100,000. Exactly, 245 or something like that every year. So we like to keep it for reserves if we have to, even though in the budget we do have money in reserves, but it's really an open account that we can use for just about anything.
and do they ever question, like we're questioning, what do you pay out of that, or, because I know the former, what was he, Mr. Michaels, once asked me that, do you know what they spend that wind farm money on? They're supposed to spend it on, do they spend it on this side of the district, or do they just do all the east side, west side?
It's not a matter of where the money goes in terms of a school, because we don't really use it for any school particular funding. It's always used for district-wide funding, such as improvements or PD, or things like that. We don't really use it for a whole lot of things. And it's very rare that we would use it, like you can see here, we pay for the vehicles, those kinds of things. So it's not allocated to any particular school, any particular geography, or any particular academic group, because that's not what it's meant for. It's meant for just general operations at the discretion of the board, at the discretion of the superintendent.
Okay.
Okay, so
All right,
let's
thank
move to
you.
the next one. I wanted to show you, before we go to the quarterly cash report, our cash assets as of September 30th, as of yesterday. So you'll see, for example, we have 4 accounts in that left-hand column. Morton Capital, which is a type of money market account, Morton Capital Bond Debt Service, and the Wells Fargo Operational Account, which we have 19 million. Now you'll see when we started at the cash report at $7.9 million, now we're up to 19 because we recovered all the money, or most of the money, that we had out in loans to those federal and state programs. If you remember, the federal government and the state does not give us a check when they say, here's your 24101 account and here's $4 million. They don't do that. We have to spend the money and then recover it as we go. So that's why that balance goes up. And then there's a Wells Fargo debt service account. This is the money that we collect from property taxes that the county every month deposits into this account for us to save up in order to pay the bond payments on principal and interest for the bonds that we have, and we have several. You'll also see in that second column after the balances, the investments. So I have what's called a sweep account. It's an investment, interest-bearing cash, interest-bearing checking account with Wells Fargo. So every month we earn on the whatever a portion of that principal is. So for this month, out of the operational account, we earned $32,000 in interest. In the bond debt service account, we earned $4,900. We add that back to the principal account, to the bond debt service, so that we can pay things out faster.
you'll see, for example, as we continue to grow that account and as these investments grow, I shared with the finance committee that the ed tech notes, of which we have not $1 million outstanding, we should be able to pay that off next year, way earlier than the schedule called for. And the reason we can do that is because of these investments. So these investments go back into the operating account. They're used to help the district with other things such as other initiatives, things that we hadn't planned on before, things that come up, special education, whatever. Sometimes they're used for salaries, whatever. So it's really, we haven't really used a lot of that money yet, it's just been accruing. So if you look at this, our current balances in all these accounts is $31,811,000. And in the Morton Capital September and the Wells Fargo sweep account, we earned $83,000 in interest just this month. So we're on track for the next 12 months to earn almost $1 million in interest. The next report is the actual cash report. And I will make it bigger for you so that you can see it. But those in the room have the paper one. And I'm going to call your attention to the first column. There we go. And that's the operational fund. You can see the very first line, line 1. We started the new school year with $16,240,000. This is the amount of money in the operation account that was that the auditor came up with. And, oh, sorry, here you go. I have it right here, sorry. The auditor gave us, this is the amount of the balance that's trued up. So that's what we started with. You can see in line 2, we've received it in the
Thank you,
quarter,
sir.
$42 million we spent. And that meant we had, can't even read my own stuff here. Total resources of 8.8 million. We spent $43 million. That left us with line 7, a total cash balance of $15 million. Payroll liabilities down, and then we're down at line 10. You can see our reconciled cash balances, all of the money we put together with the bank accounts reconciled, all that. We're at $15 million. However, if you look at line 11, there's that $8.2 million that we loaned out so that none of these other state accounts are zero. So our actual cash balance, $7 million, right? That's very low for a district that has a $121 million budget and operates on a regular basis. This isn't even 1 month's operating expense, not even 2 weeks operating expense. So that's why we have to work hard to put money in reserves. That's why we have to work hard to be very careful about how we're using the operating account. We rely on impact aid to augment that, those kinds of things. It's very important. I'll have you look at the green section on the right. Everyone's always very interested in how much money we get with impact aid. And so we started the year with $2.2 million in that account. We received for the year $3 million, and we started line 4 with $5.3 million. Now, that's not all a current allocation. This was allocations, they lag by almost 2 years sometimes for us. And so because of the recent lawsuit that paid a 1920 amount higher than it was supposed to, than we got, so it augmented that. So we're sitting right now at $4.9 million in that impact aid money. Again, augments, that's money that goes to operations, it's in payment in lieu of taxes. It's to be used in the same way that we use the 11,000 accounts. The next page, I'll just show you another one here. This is our capital accounts. So the public school outlay account, the 31,200, this is money that's used for capital projects along the districts that are not covered by the bond and not covered by any other sort of special allocation. And right now, we're at $5 million. There's plans already to work on some of this. This is where the money for buying the building at Continental Divide came out of, things like that. And then the capital improvements, this is these SB9 money. The furniture that you bought for Grants High School came out of this. The furniture that we're gonna be proposing at the next meeting for elementary schools will come out of this. And so you can see there, we ended up the year with a total of, the next page, $47 million
at the end of the school year. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions, board members?
Yeah, Mr. Maldonado, where did the, or was it a combination of funding for the renovations of the CDEC building?
We haven't started the renovation yet, but that will come out of the, public school capital outlay 31,200 account.
And are we, moving all of the district office over there along with transportation and whatever was slated to move there? Or is, I guess you can say it's Mr. Widener and his group staying at the building that we also renovated? Or what are we gonna do with that building if everybody's moved down?
Continental Divide Building?
Yes. That's actually,
It is current,
that's actually in the superintendent's report.
correct.
Ms. Hunt Daly, if you review your agenda, Mr. Widener is gonna talk about the specifics of the Continental Divide in his superintendent's report, ma'am.
Okay, I'll wait.
Thank
Just
you,
a few
ma'am.
minutes on that, Mrs. Daly.
Okay.
Did you wanna have Mr. Maldonado clarify the spending, the funding?
No,
for Continental Divide?
no, I just know that the two tribes are really interested in where the money is coming from for the renovation. So I want to make sure that it's clear and that the next time they question me, I'll have the answer.
It's coming from that 31,200 account, capital outlay that we get from the state for various projects.
And do we have to match what they provide? Do we have to match a certain? No,
No,
they're gonna pay, the cap out is gonna pay for all of it and the district doesn't have to put any in?
yeah, the money we get from the capital outlay is not just for that building, but it's for a lot of other projects. And we get that, and we've accumulated that over the last few
Oh.
years, because we haven't had a whole lot of other capital projects, right? But we are working on that right now. The one of the biggest one, of course, is the Continental Divide renovation. We don't ever want to deplete that fund to zero. That would not be a healthy thing for us to do, because you never know what's gonna come up that we need the capital fund for. Sometimes it's used for safety things, sometimes it's used for concrete work at Laguna Acoma, for example, things like that.
I think that's the reason why the staff officers were concerned about the renovation and where the money was coming from. And I really didn't have the answers for them. So I invited them to speak with Mr. Widener or to yourself, or maybe bring the board in so that they can ask their questions that need to be answered, because I couldn't do it. And so they were really concerned about that. I don't know where they got it, 4.2 million that they were going to use to renovate the CDEC building.
Oh goodness.
That'd be quite the
Gave me a heart
building.
attack just now.
No. Well, you know how rumor goes, but that's what
Yeah,
they were
the amount
implying.
allocated, just for information, the amount allocated was just under $1 million.
Okay. And
When you approve that budget, for the purchase and the renovation.
and all the district offices are going down there, even the superintendent and the payroll and everybody?
That'll come during the
Oh, okay.
superintendent's report.
Okay. Okay,
Any
I'm
further
done.
questions for Mr. Maldonado? Thank you very much, Mr. Maldonado. Appreciate your time and efforts on that for us. Mr. Widener?
It's time for the superintendent's report.
Yes, sir.
I have some good news, Mrs. Daly. I'll answer your questions in just a moment. I want to start off with Blue Water.
Okay.
Okay. I want to start off reporting on Blue Water Elementary School. We did get the final inspections completed yesterday. Is that correct, Mr. Triplehorn? And we now have a occupancy certificate. Our teachers and families, well, our teachers and staff will move in on Thursday and Friday of this week. And we're hoping that our students' first day in the new building will be Monday, October 6th. And so big October 7th. So big things happening at Blue Water. The school is beautiful. It's wonderful. We're very happy with the job there and very eager to get moved in. We did have to push our moving back a couple of days because of a problem in the kitchen. And so we did get that corrected and we now have ownership of the building. Mesa View, if you drive by Mesa View Elementary, metal framing is completed. They are bricking now, and so we're starting to definitely see the landscape on that street looking very different. There's a school going up, and so if you have the chance, drive by Mesa View. We do still hope that it's a quick project. It takes time. And we did get Blue Water built in a year, and so we're hoping that Mesa View is progressing well, and we've already talked about some of the behind things that some of the issues they've faced with the flood this summer and that kind of stuff. But Mesa View is taking shape, and it's Mr. Triplehorn is working a lot with the contractors and meeting with them and looking at the systems and the subcontractors and continually working with that. Mrs. Hunt Daly, the Continental Divide building, we had the capital money. We set the $1 million aside to purchase the building, to remodel the building. The plan for that building is it's going to be a student support center. And so everything that is housed in that building will be about students. And so if a student needs a Chromebook, they will go there and they will receive their Chromebook. If a parent, if they have a broken Chromebook problem, they will go there and there will be folks that will help them. Our technology department will move into the Continental Divide building, and they will be there as a student enrolls. They will have our synergy group there. And so everything that's related to students will be housed in that building. So that way, if you're new to the district and you move here from California, you can stop at that building and go in and enroll your child in the district. We'll keep the same offices here at central office that we have had. We anticipate keeping the boardroom here, keeping my office here. We've talked about nursing services moving. We've talked about the special ed building, and so we do want it to be student focused there and kind of right in the middle of town for anybody that needs access. That kind of leads into the last item. I did want to talk. I have heard your request, Mrs. Daly, and I know that we want to talk about mobile meetings. We have looked at microphones and speakers, and we have the technology here. And then with the current laws about streaming and broadcasting and having comments on our videos, it's possible we could do work sessions with a smart board. It's possible we could like the social we had last week. We definitely can do those mobile. It's right now it's kind of hard with the broadcasting law. So I have a superintendent's meeting tomorrow, and I'm gonna try to find out about any districts that do have mobile meetings and how they do that and how they are able to do the streaming. And so I want you to know that I am working on it, and that's why last week we had the social where we did, because I think it's important that we do spend some time in different locations and in some of our different sites.
Questions, board members, for Mr. Widener? All right, let's move to the consent agenda, please. We just have the bars as listed. Superintendent Widener, a recommendation.
That is correct. I recommend that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed? Is there a motion?
I'll make,
Can't see.
Oh, goodness.
I can see 2 miles away.
The first one, Dr. Archambault, is our CTE flow through fund. And so that's money that we utilize. Second one, the second two are
Assessors. Three.
second three.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Can, Madam President, can I have one more question? The CTE program, is that, what is it exactly to pay for? Maintenance of equipment? What are we talking about there?
This is a maintenance, can I answer that question?
Yes, please.
This is a maintenance bar, it's not for maintenance. Maintenance bars mean that we're simply reconciling some of the transfers in between certain accounts and truing this up with the money that we receive compared to the money that we've allocated and spent. So all this is doing is truing up this particular fund, 27502, which is money that we get for funding career technical education along all aspects of the district. So it's not new money, it's just money that's being reconciled.
Okay, thank you.
Just
Yes.
paying the bills.
It's reconciliation.
So for the third time, is there a motion? And is there a second?
second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Dr. Archambault and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to approve the consent agenda as listed, including the bars. We shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Archambault? Mrs. Hunt Daily?
Yes?
Mr. Jaramillo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Aye, the motion carries. Next is the executive session. This will be discussion of limited personnel matters pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1 H2 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically for the board to review and discuss the prior summative January 2024, completed March 19th, 2024 evaluation feedback to guide the October 2024 formative evaluation of the superintendent. Is there a motion to move to executive session as presented?
Make a motion to session.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Dr. Archambault and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to move to executive session as presented. Is there any further discussion?
Can we stay on this link, or do I have to get another link to join the executive session?
There's a breakout, so.
There is a breakout session, room.
Room.
She just needs to stay on.
So you just stay on this, is that correct?
On this link.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we shall proceed to roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Shambo?
Yes.
Mrs. Handelli?
Yes.
Mr. Jaramillo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Aye, the motion carries. The board will move to executive session at 7:05 PM. We shall break for about 5 minutes to get everybody situated for the meeting. And then we will reconvene after executive.
We're unmuted now.
Very good. All right. Please note that only the items listed for executive session, which was discussion of limited personnel matters pursuant to NMSA 1978, section 10-15-1, H2 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically for the board to review and discuss the prior summative January 2024, completed March 19th, 2024 evaluation feedback
Not anymore.
to guide the October 2024 formative evaluation of the superintendent was discussed. No action was taken during the executive session. What happened?
Miss Daly, can you hear us?
It's muted.
He said it's muted.
Yes, I can.
Go
Very
ahead.
good, okay. Is there a motion to reconvene open session?
Move to reconvene into open session.
Is there a second? I'll second it. It has been moved by Dr. Archambault and seconded by President Lee to reconvene open session as presented. Mrs. Sandoval, roll call, please.
Dr. Archambault,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Aye. The motion carries and the board reconvene open session at 8:52 p.m. Next on the agenda, we have action items. The board discussion and possible approval of process and timeline for completing the superintendent's October 2024 formative evaluation, consistent with board policy CBI and regulations CBIR. Is there a motion for the board to use the same evaluation instrument that for the superintendent evaluation that the board has already been using for this evaluation cycle?
I move to the board use the current evaluation instrument, formative instrument of to evaluate the superintendent that was used previously.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Dr. Archambault to use the current evaluation instrument for the superintendent's evaluation cycle for the formative evaluation, and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Archambault,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Aye, the motion carries. The second motion would be for the timeline for, oh, pardon me. Is there a motion for, thank you, Dr. Archambault. Is there a motion for limiting the, pardon me?
We make the motion.
Go ahead.
I move that the whole board participate in the formative evaluation of the superintendent.
And is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Dr. Archambault that the whole board participate in the formative evaluation of the superintendent, and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo. Is there discussion?
Let me pause. That implies that the whole board would be also involved with the summative evaluation.
When
So
it-
the
when it
super,
occurs in January, yes.
I don't wanna have another motion.
so that was my mistake for using the word formative in that. It should have simply been stated the evaluation of the superintendent, correct?
Would you like to make a friendly amendment?
Yes.
And the amendment would be to remove the word formative and to apply to all evaluations moving forward?
Move to have the full board participate in the
Evaluation
in
process.
the evaluation process.
Thank you, and then,
Mr. Jaramillo, do you accept the change?
Yes.
all right, thank you very much for that help. So it has been moved by Dr. Archambault and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to have the whole board participate in the evaluation of the superintendent. Is there discussion?
Let me discuss quickly. Is that when I look at the board policy on board evaluation, it says the board. It does not, provide for any limiting of board participation in the evaluation. So that means to me that the board is all, the board in this district, it constitutes 5 board members. And therefore, there cannot be a distinction or any unless that board member is not in attendance and doesn't wish to participate. But the policy does state that it's the board, and the statute, that's the board.
Thank you, sir. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we shall proceed to.
Madam President, I'm going to have to state my objection. I think, as stated before, we started a process. We should stay with that process so that in the public eyes, we're not changing it. We're not changing the process simply to aid somebody out. I think we started a process, we should finish it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further? All right, hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Archambault?
Yes.
Mrs. Undaly?
No,
Mr. Jaramillo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Aye, the motion carries. Next would be the timeline.
Timeline.
Would you like me to state, or do you feel comfortable stating? So, we are looking at the timeline. So may I have would somebody like to make a motion
I move that
to approve?
I move that the formative evaluation proceed with the completion, submittal of the completed evaluation form by
October 7th.
with an executive session on October 8th, at which time we will review the submittals. Following that, October 15th, the board will review the first compilation of the completed evaluation forms. And on
The 29th.
October 29th, we will convene a meeting with Mr. Widener, the superintendent, to discuss the feedback of the board regarding his performance today.
Excellent. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. It has been moved by Dr. Archambault to complete the formative evaluation with the following dates. October 7th would be submittal by the board of the evaluation instrument with comments. October 8th would be the executive session for the board to present and review together that information. The 15th would be, October 15th would be executive session for the final review. And then October 29th would be a special executive session to present to Mr. Widener and have the feedback. I think that's it. So it has been moved by Dr. Archambault and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo. Is there any discussion?
Mrs. they got off, so.
Oh, no. We lost Mrs. Daly.
She still have a quorum, so.
You just
We still have a
have a
quorum.
quorum.
Very good. So hearing no discussion, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Ashambo,
Yes?
Ms. Hunt Daly. Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Aye, the motion carries.
They're all on Tuesdays.
Yes. Every Tuesday. Except for the 22nd. I think
Remember you
that's
thought this was gonna be a low-key month?
Huh?
Remember you thought
That
this
was
was
just
gonna
telling
be
you,
a
I was
low-key
like,
month?
man, well, it was a long month, and I was trying to figure, man, that's crazy, we're gonna be off for 3 weeks.
Yes.
I thought I was gonna have a 3-week vacation.
Announcements, Mr. Widener.
A couple of important announcements. You all need to know and keep on your calendars that the district will close on October 14th for the observance of Indigenous Peoples' Day on October 14th. October 30th, we will have our Professional Development Early Release Day for the month of October. The district mentor, Mrs. Lightfoot, will be here then. It looks like we'll be getting together the night before, so if you guys wanted to do a social or something the next night, we could do that, or a work session. November 5th is Election Day. It is now mandatory that we close the district for Election Day, so we will not have school on November 5th. And the Thanksgiving break will be November 25th through 29th of 2024.
And I'm gonna just add on what we just all agreed to. We're gonna have a special board meeting October 8th and a special board meeting October 29th. And that will help us complete your
And that election
evaluation.
day, isn't that the first Tuesday of the month, so that means we'll have to skip our
we're
regular.
gonna have it on the 7th.
The district is closed on November 5.
So we have it on the 7th. You, according to policy states, if it's a holiday,
It's 2
it's
days
that
after.
Thursday
So
after.
we cannot meet on we're not meeting on November 5,
No.
am I correct?
Right, cause it's
Correct.
election day.
But November 5 isn't a meeting day already.
Okay, so.
So we're not meeting on November 5.
You're meeting on the 7th.
On the 7th.
Okay, I as well.
Well, I was just asking her that now.
Yeah,
Because thank you,
So-
Mark, to remind, I was gonna be here.
No, I was just seeing that it's the first Tuesday
I
of the
would have
month.
been here as well, so.
Yeah, cause it is the first Tuesday, but
And that's
It'll be the seventh.
now a law.
That is a lot,
Yeah.
that is a lot, yeah.
Mr. Weiner, future agenda items?
Future agenda items, I do want to touch bases. We have a lot of evaluation stuff coming up, but I do want to work with the board on the facilities master plan as well as the technology master plan. And we have been talking about our IPAC. They have solidified their officers and their roles, and so I am going to ask them to come very near future to come and talk to the board.
Wonderful.
I'd like to see that.
How about adjourning? Superintendent Weiner, is there a recommendation to adjourn?
I recommend that we adjourn.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And is there a second?
What, we don't wanna go?
Well, I'm
Second,
looking at the
second.
guys.
I did all my motions.
Second.
You did.
It has been moved by Ms. Hunt Daly and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to adjourn the meeting as presented. Mrs. Sandoval, roll call, please.
Dr. Shambo?
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Hadamio,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion
What is the
carries.
time
The
frame of
board
that? Is it
has
like-
adjourned
you know,
at
take a picture, you have,
9:06 PM.